Due to the fact that copper in Pakistan is mostly imported, this results in high copper prices there. To address this issue, a small recycling workshop in Peshawar, Pakistan, decided to dismantle scrapped compressors to collect copper components. By simply melting them down, they can obtain high-purity copper. How do they manage to do this? Follow my lens to Peshawar, Pakistan, to find out. These compressors piled up in front of us are the raw materials for extracting copper. Since the compressor's motors are hidden inside, to quickly dismantle them, the worker uses a saw to cut off the compressor's casing, making it easier to access the internal motor. As the motor is surrounded by accessories, the worker also needs to dismantle all of them, leaving only the rotor with the copper wires. If this dismantling were done domestically, a hammer drill with a chisel would generally be used to remove the connected components. However, due to limited resources in Pakistan, the worker can only use a small hammer to forcibly remove the unnecessary components. After removing all the connected components, the copper wires are still wrapped around the rotor, so the worker needs to collect them and dismantle all the copper wires from the rotor. Once the copper wires are removed, the next step is refining. To speed up the refining process, the worker fills a cart with the copper wires and takes it to the melting area. In the melting area, smoke fills the air, as if we are in a fantasy world. The worker then puts the copper wires into the furnace. Under the continuous burning of heavy oil, the copper wires are refined in about half an hour. Meanwhile, another worker prepares the molds for the copper ingots. To prevent the molten copper from sticking to the molds, the worker applies a release agent inside the mold, making it easier to separate. After applying the release agent, the mold can be closed. To prevent the molten copper from breaking the mold, bolts are used to secure it in place. After reinforcing with bolts on both layers, the mold meets the standards for forming the ingots. At this point, the copper wires, after half an hour of melting, have turned into molten copper. The worker uses tools to remove the molten copper from the furnace and transfers it to a large mold. The volume of the mold is exactly the amount needed for one copper ingot. Once the mold is filled with molten copper, the worker moves it to the molding area, carefully filling the mold. After the copper ingot solidifies and takes shape, the next step is to remove the mold. The worker takes the ingot out of the mold and transfers it to the cooling area to cool down completely. And so, the production process of the copper ingots is completed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.